Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day. All Bills, all the time. And now Matt Milano and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
Well, happy Thanksgiving week, and welcome to post-bye football for the Buffalo Bills. Sal Capaccio, Matt Milano. It's always game day in Buffalo. Matt and I both took a little chance to recharge here. We hope you did as well. Thanks for always, listening, and we know we brought you some content last week. We appreciate that. But a time to get right back into the swing of things and talk about the Buffalo Bills and football. But first, Matt, first of all, welcome back. Yeah, I know you have to have some sort of travel story. You always have a travel story.
Yeah, I hate that I do, but I have another travel story because it seems like I should just not travel. And maybe, now I was thinking about this. I've thought about this a lot. We both travel pretty frequently. Maybe I just have the normal amount of travel headaches, but because I'm traveling more frequently, that they just seem like they pop up more. But this one, once again, we leave Buffalo on Wednesday afternoon to go to Orlando, Florida. We take the Southwest direct flight. Everything goes off without a hitch in the airport. We get to the rental car. Everything goes off without a hitch. Get to the airport or get to the hotel. It's like 9 o'clock at night. I specifically rented a room that had a crib in it. And I called the week before. I was like, I need a crib. And they're like, not a problem. We'll put it on the reservation. You'll be good to go. Get to the hotel. They're like, yeah, there'll be a crib up in the room. Great. No crib. So I go downstairs and I'm like, hey, I need that crib. She's like an hour past her bedtime, our daughter. Can we please get a crib? Yeah, sure. We'll go get you one. Half an hour goes by. There's no crib. I go back down and I'm like, guys, I need a crib. We're now an hour and a half past her bedtime. Like, we really kind of want to get her to bed soon. And we've never done the whole, like, put her in the bed and sleep in between us thing. So it's just, we want a crib. That's what we're comfortable with. Then they come back to us and they go, we don't have a crib. We're out of them. We do have a pack and play. Can this work? And I was like, I've never had her sleep in a pack and play before, but we can give it a shot. We set up the pack and play in the room. She starts bouncing up and down and is screaming. No.
Screaming. I thought you meant a good way. Sorry.
No. Screaming uncontrollably, will not stop, gets sick, and does what babies do everywhere when they get sick. Looks like a war zone in our room. I go downstairs and I'm like, she just threw up everywhere. I was like, I need a crib. And they're like, we don't have one. I was like, you're going to have to cancel this reservation. I'm going to find a different hotel. So now it's 11 o'clock at night. I cancel the reservation. I go to another hotel. This hotel has a crib. We get to that hotel room. So we switch hotels. She gets sick again. We go to the emergency room. We're in the emergency room until 4 a.m. with our daughter after getting into Orlando, Florida at 8 o'clock. Now, everything ended up working out. She was fine. The doctor in the emergency room thinks it was either some sort of like motion sickness thing, or maybe it was that she was eating food on the plane that she doesn't normally eat, like some graham crackers and like apples.
It wasn't the pack and play then?
I don't know what it was, but it was just like she got sick in the pack and play. Then we switched hotels on the other side of town. Then she got sick again. And then we ended up in the emergency room and we were there from like 12:30 to like 4 a.m. It was ridiculous. But then we had a great trip after that. So it all got better after that.
I'm really sorry to hear that.
Yeah. See the little.
Hope Ellie is okay.
I love the little ticker on the bottom from Mike. Matt's daughter plays through injury in Florida. She was questionable going into the trip and then became doubtful. But then we got to probable and then she had a good performance.
I'm glad that everybody's okay. I'm glad you got back okay. Glad you had a good time.
So
very quickly. I can't rise to any of that level because when your kids are involved and they're sick, my son was with me on vacation as well. My wife, Yana, we went out west, went to San Francisco, but I don't know if you know, they had what they called a bomb cyclone weather pattern. Like once in like decades type of rain that we hit in San Francisco. It was unbelievable, the amount of rain while we were there for the first day and a half. My brother flying in from Oregon, we were all supposed to meet on Friday. We flew on Thursday. He came up on Friday with his girlfriend, was supposed to. We were all supposed to go to Alcatraz and then dinner Friday night. His flight, all the flights were getting delayed. We could never make it to Alcatraz Friday night. Luckily, we went to Alcatraz, to the place where you buy the tickets, in the pouring rain. Hey, what can we do? And they're like, just show up tomorrow. We can honor the tickets. They were great about it. So we went the next day. It was still a little rainy. It was great. He got in. We had dinner Friday night. We went. It was awesome. Went to Alcatraz. It was just, we never got to experience like any real good sunshine and warm weather in San Francisco. It was like pretty much rainy the entire time, but we had a great time. And then we went to Napa, and I've never, it blew me away. Have you ever been there?
Yeah, once. It was beautiful.
The wineries just go for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. They're making the wine and growing the trees and the vines. It's unbelievable. It's incredible.
I always say it's like going to Niagara on the Lake, but for like an entire like marathon, as opposed to just like a couple miles on that one road in Niagara on the Lake.
I mean, yes, that's exactly right. So a couple shout out to Francesca's Winery, because their assistant winemaker's name is Jason. Huge Bills fan, originally from Mexico, lived in Florida. He's been supporting the Bills a long time. So we hooked up with him, and he brought us in and did the whole wine tasting. Took us in the cave. It was super cool. So that was really cool. And then we went to a place called Goose Cross, and Goose Cross also, there's I'm sorry, Nick. There was Nick. Nick was at Francesca's, and Jason was at Goose Cross. I'm getting the names mixed up. I'm sorry. And got to meet everybody at Goose Cross. They were amazing. And Jason's son, Jesse's a big Bills fan. So we all hung out. We got to meet the owners. We hung out in the room, did the wine tasting. Great time. Got back, landed at 2 a.m. in Toronto, drove back, because it's a lot easier to go out of Toronto when you go places like that. Anyway, we've gone 6 minutes on this. You're not here to hear about Matt and I and our vacations. You're here to hear about the Buffalo Bills, but we wanted to tell you what we did, and hopefully you had a great bye week, whatever you did, and hopefully you didn't have kids throwing up everywhere. Hopefully you didn't have rain everywhere. But either way, we're all getting ready for Thanksgiving. We're going to talk about that coming up in a minute. Let's get into the Bills and the Niners. It's Niners week. The Bills sitting at 9-2 on the season. Pretty remarkable season right now. They have a chance. The Buffalo Bills. I cannot believe I'm saying this here heading into week number 13. A chance to win the AFC East in week number 13. All they need is a Miami loss on Thursday night at the Packers, and the Bills win. Man, how incredible is that? After everything we talked about early in the season, leading into the season, so many people would bring us on to different shows and say, oh, the Bills taking a step back. A lot of people thought they were. And yet this is the best season they've had in 32 years to start.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, I think back to last year, right? When we were going to Miami to close out the season, not knowing if the Bills were going to make the playoffs or win the division. Then a Deontay Hardy punt return lifts them in the fourth quarter, and then they end up beating the Dolphins and getting their 4th straight AFC East title. That was the first week of January. We were talking about this potentially happening on December 1st. It's remarkable. I think what the Bills have been able to do this year is just kind of a masterclass in coaching and how good Josh Allen is. I think he's the MVP. I think Sean McDermott has really silenced a lot of critics with what he's done so far this season. Still got to get it done in the playoffs, and that has been an area that has been concerning for them in years past. But I am overly impressed with what the Bills have done this year. I never would have thought this was possible, because I also just thought the other teams in the division were going to be way better, specifically the Jets. I thought the Jets were going to be a lot more competitive. The one thing I will say, though, I think the Dolphins are good. And I've said that on the podcast for several years. I don't think they're going to get a chance to clinch the division on Sunday, because I think the Dolphins are going to beat the Packers on Thanksgiving. I think the Dolphins are a very dangerous team.
Yeah, I don't want to see the Dolphins as the 7th seed if the Bills are the 2. I think that would be a dangerous game for the Bills. The Dolphins are a really good team when Tua is healthy and playing. I mean, he showed how valuable he is to that organization and team. He's not among the upper echelon of quarterbacks in the NFL, but he's a very good player, and he's just super, super good for them specifically and what they want to do and what they built as far as the offense is concerned. So I agree with you that they're kind of, and they're on a hot streak right now. They play on Thursday night. That's a big game, obviously. The Bills play on Sunday. Let's talk about what it looks like for the Bills, because it was amazing to me after their game that after they beat the Chiefs, and then I tweeted out, and not a secret or anything, but I just went through and just looking at the list, I tweeted it out. We'll talk about this. Here are the players who missed the game against the Chiefs, who could be available for the Bills when they play Sunday night against the San Francisco 49ers. Let's talk about them individually. Let's go. First of all, tight end Dalton Kincaid. Do you think he plays?
I do.
Yeah, I do too. I think so. What impact would that have? We'll see, because obviously he hasn't been on the same page with Josh as much. Dawson Knox has filled in nicely, but you'd love to have Dalton Kincaid available, obviously. Right tackle Spencer Brown. It feels like he was very close, and he should be able to play.
Absolutely. I think of all of the guys who missed the 49ers game, he's the one I'm most confident about returning to the lineup.
All right. How about wide receiver Keon Coleman? Do you think that he's going to be in the lineup against no, we're just guessing here, folks, just so you know. Sean McDermott, we're talking here on Tuesday. Sean speaks on Wednesday. He'll give us more of an injury report. We'll find out, but it feels like they've held him out now for 2 games. He gets the extra bye week. That's going to be a month since he injured his wrist.
Yeah, I mean, at the last practice we were allowed to watch before the Kansas City Chiefs game, I was watching Keon Coleman work out off to the side with no protection or cast or brace on his wrist. It was his left wrist, I believe. So I do think that he's close. I think there's a chance maybe they're a bit more cautious with him, just given the nature of the injury. But I would say that's a coin flip. That's a 50-50 shot that he's back.
Okay, so let's then go to players who are a little bit even more interesting because they haven't played in a while. Let's start with defensive tackle Dwayne Carter. They could open his window. We haven't heard that happening yet this week. He has now missed the prerequisite 4 games on injured reserve. If the Bills would like to do it, they could open his window to start practicing. Then he'd have 21 days. Here's how I view this. The Bills generally, when they do open a practice window, the player does not play that week. They generally open the practice window. They give the ramp up time. We don't even know if they're opening the window, but even if they do, not quite sure that this week would be the week, considering that they already signed a couple of defensive tackles a couple of weeks ago, and it feels like things are heading in the right direction at that position right now.
Yeah, I think they'll probably open up his practice window on Wednesday when we are back at practice, but I don't think that means he plays on Sunday. I think they'll take it overly, cautiously with him just because of the Jordan Phillips edition, of the Quentin Jefferson edition, of the different moves that they've made. I don't feel like they want to rush him back, especially if he is not 100%, because he did make splash plays before he got injured. He was a player that I think was on the, kind of upswing. So I think they'll want to make sure they can get him back fully healthy. I think we probably see him play.
Oh. Hey, Matt, your audio went out, so I'm not really sure why. So I'm just going to keep talking here as we go on, and hopefully you can get that fixed. So as Matt just wrapping up with Dwayne Carter, I agree. He's an ascending player. He's been ascending so far. He's played really well lately. And then obviously the big one, the name that everybody's kind of waiting on to see if he plays, Matt Milano, number 58, linebacker for the Bills. Will he play against the San Francisco 49ers?
I think I'm back. Do you hear me now? I'm back. All right.
I did my best. It's what we do in radio sometimes. We got to fill some time, so there's no dead air. Okay, Matt Milano, obviously the big name that people are eyeing. We know that he can be activated. Now, here's the deal with him, so everybody's aware. The Bills, as of now, I took it to go back and look. I believe they still have only 52 on their active roster, Matt. If I remember correct, it's been a week since I went through it. They have 52. They have a spot. It's going to go to Matt Milano, I feel, by Saturday at 4 p.m. That's when they need to activate him to the roster in order to play on Sunday. If they don't worry, folks. They still have until next Wednesday, December 4th, to officially do it before they'd have to shut him down for the season. Nobody anticipates that's happening. So the question is, do they do it before the 49ers game? And if so, does he actually play in the game?
Yes and yes. I think that it happens before the 49ers game, and I think he plays in some capacity against the 49ers. I think they will use that as like his ramp-up window. I think they'll probably play him in a couple different situations. I don't know if it'll be like hey, you're getting 2 series, you're playing all of these snaps next to Terrell Bernard, and then we're going to see what's happening, or if it's going to be like, hey, on 3rd downs, you're coming on the field, and we're going to use you like that. So that's what I'm anticipating. I definitely think, though, that after what we saw at practice last week, like Matt Milano was full on tackling, like he was doing everything you need to see a player do. I think back to Taron Johnson earlier in the year. When Taron Johnson was close, there were certain things during practice he would do and wouldn't do. And then when he started doing those things, then he was playing the next week. We saw Matt Milano doing those things before the bye week. So I think he's ready to go. So
the Bills could elect to activate Milano onto the 53, but then just leave him as a game day inactive. So they could do that, and then he's on the 53, and then when they're ready to play him. But I agree with you on both counts. I think that they do activate him before Saturday at 4 p.m. to allow him to be on the game day roster if they want on Sunday, and then he actually is on the game day roster on Sunday. In what capacity is very interesting. And even going forward, I think there is a question about where he fits in. To me, he's the starting will linebacker. When he's ready and he's 100% and they're confident, I think he's on the field for pretty much 100% of the snaps over Dorian Williams. Dorian Williams becomes a backup. I just feel that he's the starting will linebacker. Dorian Williams has been filling in his spot this year. That's what happens when guys come back from injury. So I feel like that's what's going to happen in this situation.
Can I ask you a situational question? Yep. I'm just like the way, if everybody stays healthy moving forward and Matt Milano replaces Dorian Williams, on obvious like passing situations or whatever it would be, would you still use Cam Lewis as your extra guy? Or do you think that there would be situations where you would get Dorian onto the field? Now you'd go heavier, and obviously in passing situations, you'd probably keep Cam out there, but you feel like there's a path for him to get out and to have some sort of regular role.
I think it's the other way around. Let me explain it this way. I still think dime is dime. If you're going to go in a passing situation, Milano and Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano stay on the field, and then Cam Lewis comes in and a defensive tackle comes off, a defensive lineman comes off. That's what the dime defense would be. So I think that's dime. What I'm interested in is, what if it's a heavy package, short yardage? Does Dorian Williams become your strong side linebacker, and you go 3 linebackers on the field? And now you have a guy who's very athletic and he can hold up against the run. And instead of Bale and Spector, what they were using as they would have Bernard, Williams, and Spector, does it become Bernard, Milano, Williams on those run situations? And then let's just project way out. What if you play the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs? Do you go 3 linebackers with those 3 guys in the field? That would be the question. And then you would bring Taron Johnson off in those situations as well, which we always talk about. You don't want to do a Taron Johnson. I get it, but you might have to in certain situations to get a little bit more size in those situations. I'm going to just send some chills down some Bills fans' spines right now. I want you to think about this, all right? Sunday night, kind of a snow globe game. It's 20 degrees, snow's sprinkling down, Sunday night football. Everybody's fired up. The Bills have a chance to win the division, and the Bills introduce the starting defense, and Matt Milano's name gets announced coming out of that tunnel.
There's a pop. That's like a wrestling WWE pop. Like that's a big moment for them. And I think that it's been so long since we've seen Matt Milano play that maybe there are not a ton of people, but maybe there's some people who forgot how good he was. Now, it's been 1.5 years since he's played. So I think there needs to be a little bit of understanding, or, a year and a couple.
It's been 13 months.
Yeah, it's been since London of last year.
Yeah.
I meant basically like 1.5 seasons, not 1.5 years, because that time just doesn't make sense. But he's really good. It's going to take him a little bit of time to get back to that level. We saw it with Trey White. Like Trey White was really, really good, and it took him longer, but it's a different injury. I think Matt Milano is going to be more explosive now than he would have been if he played in September, just because he has had more time to rehab his previous injury. I think the pec is something that's probably going to be more of like a discomfort in learning how to use than the other injury he was coming back from.
Yeah, listen, he is 30 years old, but he keeps himself in tremendous shape. Sean McDermott raves about like everything that Matt Milano does as far as what he brings to off the field stuff, right? The leadership in the locker room, even though he's not a rah-rah guy. He's a quiet guy.
No,
but just the way he conducts his business and what he means to be here. And I said to Matt, he walked out of the locker room against Kansas City, and I said, "Hey, enjoy your bye week." And he looked at me and goes, "I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here." He's been rehabbing. He's staying here. Like he's getting ready. He's all in to come back and be, I think, the Matt Milano and he used to be. And I would say this to your point, Matt, which you're right. This is not a Tre'Davious White Achilles/knee. This is a broken leg and bicep. And he's also not a cornerback where he has to stop and pivot and change directions every single, 3 steps. It is, this is a different position, a different type of player. And he also had another 3 months from the leg injury from when we were wondering how he would be kind of recovered back in August. And here we are. He has that extra time. I'm excited to see what it is, what it looks like. Here's what I'm really excited about. I'll say we have been robbed in Buffalo, unfortunately, because it's NFL, it's sports, it's football. Bills fans have been robbed of seeing Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano on the field enough together. And you're going to hopefully finally see that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they looked so dominant when they were together for the 4 games that they played together last year. Let me ask you this. How many snaps do you think he plays? If he plays on Sunday, how many plays do we see Matt Milano?
Is it a close
20?
game?
Well, you know what's interesting is when they brought back Trey in that Detroit game, it was a really close game, and it didn't matter. He played those 2 series, and then he didn't touch the field again. So I don't know if it matters.
Yeah, I think it's probably maybe
20?
let's say a quarter of the snaps, 25%, maybe something like that.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
I don't know. It's a really good question. We'll see. He might not play at all. I mean, the Bills may say, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna keep ramping him up. We'll activate him, and we'll wait. Maybe he plays Maybe he doesn't really get on the field. I don't know. It's a tough call. I guess you can't really do that. You don't really want to do that. We'll see what happens on Sunday night. But the 49ers are a team dealing with a lot of very interesting injuries as well, including, obviously, their quarterback, Brock Purdy. Now, what's interesting, Matt, I was in San Francisco driving, listening to the Odyssey station, the game in San Francisco, when the news broke that Purdy was not going to play against the Packers. And I'm like, what is going on? They were reacting to it in real time. And I'm listening, and they're like, wow, like no Brock Purdy, no Nick Bosa. They knew they were in for it against Green Bay. And then the questions immediately started. Could Brock Purdy even be out against the Bills? What we know is Kyle Shanahan said he did some light throwing on Monday. They'll see how the week goes, but there is no certainty here. He was all set to play until Friday of last week.
He's going to play, though. He's going to play. I think he's going to play. I think that given what they said and the optimism and the initial reporting, even from like Schefter and Rappaport on Sunday of like, hey, he's missing this game, but there is, a belief that he will be back against the Bills. They're playing for their season. Like if he can't play in this game, your season's basically done. So I think he's going to play even if he's not 100% or even if he's not 80%.
No, listen, I don't disagree with anything you just said. I think that's probably the scenario. But Matt, like he has something wrong with his surgically repaired shoulder. Yeah. And the more he's out there playing, the more it becomes a problem for them. And they have to decide on the future of this kid. I don't think it's as clean cut as that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I certainly agree with everything that you're saying, right? This is more of a long-term decision than a potentially short-term decision. The 49ers have to figure out if they get into the playoffs, are they good enough to go on a run and potentially win a Super Bowl, or are they risking their future by just getting into a wild card spot and then eventually losing to the 3 seed or the 4 seed or whatever it ends up being? And that's why they're going to play this slow. I just get the sense that he is going to be back out there, even if he's not 100%.
Okay, I would also point out, this is not a, Bills AFC East situation. Even if they lose this game, they can still win the NFC West. The San Francisco 49ers at 5-6 are 1 game out of the NFC West. This is a non-conference game. This is not, as you said, their season's on the line. It is not on the line in this game. They still have there's plenty of opportunity. In fact, look at the schedule of all the other West teams this week. Even if the 49ers lose, they may still only be 1 game back of their division.
So here's their remaining schedule. And this is why I kind of think that it is make or break. You have the Bills this week. After that, you go Bears, Rams, Dolphins, Lions, Cardinals. Those are not easy games.
I know, but who do the Seahawks have this week?
I don't know because I just have the specific 49ers schedule.
They're at the Jets, so they'll probably win. The Jets are coming off a bye week, though. All right. Who do the Rams have this week? And by the way, the Rams have not looked good recently. All right. Last week against the Eagles. The Rams have the Saints. That is not an easy cakewalk for them. Who are the Arizona Cardinals have this week?
See, I think that's a cakewalk for them. I think the Saints are terrible.
Okay. Who do the Cardinals have? They're the Vikings.
Yeah, Cardinals have the Vikings. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a weird, like mashed up division because they're all so close to each other. And yeah, conceivably, like the 49ers could lose this game and then lose one more game. But if they win their division games, that they could still, but like you're chasing, right? Because I think right now the Cardinals are probably the team to beat in that division at 6-5. And if they win on Sunday, 7-5, and you're 2 games back of them, like the Cardinals have the head-to-head over the 49ers from earlier in the year too. So like that's tricky. And then they played against each other to close out the season.
Yeah, for sure. And then I would also say, I mean, it's going to be cold in Buffalo. It's going to be snowing. I just think that there's a bigger factor at play here for Brock Purdy. But when it comes to Nick Bosa, I wonder, is your optimism as much on him that they would put him out there? Because it seems like this might be a multiple week injury. Again, another guy who they didn't know. He has a oblique injury. We'll see if he winds up playing, but that's obviously a huge loss that they don't have him too.
Yeah, I feel like from the reading and listening that I've done to things on the 49ers side of things, it feels like Trent Williams and Brock Purdy are the ones I'm more positive and optimistic about. And Bosa is the one that I'm a little bit more of like a coin flip. Seems like he might miss a little bit more time.
So the Bills take on the Niners Sunday night. What do we have left on okay, let me ask you this. It's been the bye week. You've had some time to think about it. You have been the #1 conductor of the Micah Hyde train, and people want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Where do you stand now, Mr. Matt Bove? I have said I have been consistent on this since the beginning of the season, where I was always said, hey, it would never surprise me if he came back. Get to November, December, definitely would be in the window. But as we've gone through the season, I felt more and more like that's not going to happen unless they suffer probably multiple injuries.
Yeah, I still think that it happens. I'm not as gung-ho about it. Yeah,
You still think he comes back?
I still think he comes back. Yeah, I do. Maybe. So my birthday is on Wednesday. It's the 27th. So if I get a chance to make a wish, maybe it'll be that Micah Hyde comes back, and it has nothing to do with like me wanting I just want to be right, because I've been saying this for months. But I do think that he comes back. I think the Bills' kind of like final phase of this roster is going to be Matt Milano coming back from injured reserve this week, eventually moving on from Jordan Phillips or Quentin Jefferson to make space for Dwayne Carter when he is healthy, figuring out what's going on with Smoot, eventually getting him back in some capacity, and having Micah Hyde as a depth safety option for you. Break glass in case of emergency, just knowing. Is
there a point of no return for you on this? Is there a point where if he doesn't come back, you're like, yeah, it's not happening?
Yeah, probably like mid-December. Probably like
it's not like he can show up on week 2 of the playoffs, right? Like, hey, and get ready to play.
I'm thinking like if he's not back by like the Lions game, why would it happen unless something goes terribly wrong for them? But I still, this is to me, it was always kind of like right around this. I always thought it made sense to do it earlier, but it, at least from the outside looking in, felt more like this was a Micah Hyde decision than a Bills decision. Like, does Micah want to come back? And if he does, the Bills have left that door open for him. I know they really have liked what Taylor Rapp has done. Damar Hamlin has gotten better as the season has gone on. Certainly, they trust Cam Lewis to do a lot of different things for them. Cole Bishop is still very much an unknown. I just think when you're going into the playoffs, like, what's the harm, right? If you can make it work, what is the harm if he is your third or fourth safety? And I just know that they trust him and that he's up to speed on all of the things that they would want to do.
Speaking of the schedule, and you just brought up the Lions a moment ago. So there's a lot of
good segue. Good segue. Well done. You're a professional. You know what you're doing. Good segue.
There's been a lot of chatter, rumor, innuendo, whatever you want to call it, about the Bills-Lions game on Sunday, December 15th, currently scheduled for 4:25 p.m. to be flexed into a Sunday night or most likely a Monday night spot. I will tell you from everything that everyone that I've talked to, poked around, learned about, and even my own opinion on this, I think there's almost zero chance that's happening, everybody. Here's how it works. Mike North, VP of NFL Broadcasting, came on this podcast with us and told us what, Matt, about flex scheduling?
So that nobody can protect games before the season starts. However, they're Sunday afternoon partners, so CBS and Fox, when the season starts, have the right to protect one game each week. So, for example, a couple weeks ago, CBS would choose to protect the Bills against the Chiefs because they know it's going to be a huge game, just like the Bills-Lions game is going to be in a couple weeks. I work at an ABC television station. If there is anybody on the planet who wants to see this game moved into Monday Night Football, it is me. Sure. And I'm telling you, it's not going to I don't think it's going to happen because that would mean CBS has to leave the game unprotected. And I do not see a world where they would be like, hey, you know that potential Super Bowl preview in a couple weeks? Yeah, we want to let that go so we can play, you know, the Dolphins, whoever on our network at 4:20.
Well, let me give you what's going on that Sunday, okay? Because there's that is what's interesting about that week, though. I will say it is a rare week where there's a CBS and Fox national doubleheader. Okay, the Fox game that week is going to be Steelers at Eagles, which looks really juicy. All right. On the CBS side, now you also have Buccaneers Chargers, which is really good. So Fox has 2, Steelers and Eagles, and they have Buccaneers at Chargers. CBS has 3 games in that window, okay, to put it up against. They have Bills at Lions, or they could choose to say, nah, we're not going to protect that and let people watch Colts at Broncos or Patriots at Cardinals. What do you think they're going to do, folks? Yeah, CBS is going to say, you're not touching Bills at Lions. We're, of course, keeping that. That is a huge, huge, massive game for them. Look at the numbers that happened for the Bills-Chiefs game a couple weeks ago. The massive numbers were unbelievable. That's the kind of game they're looking at in Detroit with Buffalo. It does not matter what the NFL wants. I know that people have some sort of, thought or belief that, Roger Goodell, the NFL will strong arm them. No, if CBS says, no, They've paid billions of dollars. If they want to protect it, they're protecting it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that for CBS, they have the potential of having the 2 most watched regular season football games now of the year, and they would have no reason to not want. I mean, that is going to make them hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising. So they will keep their game. They will be thrilled that they got those 2 big those 2 big massive numbers from the Bills game. I mean, the Bills Chiefs game was the most watched regular season football game not on Thanksgiving or Christmas since Brady Manning 2007. I am not saying that Bills Lions would do that, but it would do a really, really, really big number and would legitimately be a top 5 game watched this season.
The Monday night games that week, there are 2 of them, by the way.
Yeah, that's why it's interesting. And I think that's why people jump to the conclusion of like, oh, they'll move it to a Monday night game.
Bears at Vikings is the 8 o'clock game. Then at 8:30 is Falcons Raiders. So you're going to have 2 games simultaneously. Now, okay, let's just say the less, when I say less than 1% chance, because that's what I think it is. Let's just say that scenario. How would it work? Well, if for some reason ESPN, the NFL, they really wanted, CBS says, no, we're protecting it. What has happened in the past, and we know this from Mike North, you could make deals and you could kind of give them something else down the road. And if that happens and you all come at Sal and Matt said it's not going to happen. Look, we do not think it's going to happen. We don't have anything official from the league. No one has told us it's not happening. I'm not telling you that here. We are both just saying, like Matt with his Micah Hyde take, all right? We're both saying here, I can't see a scenario.
Here's how it happens.
Any scenario where
here's how it happens.
CBS doesn't have that game at 4:25 on Sunday.
Here's how it happens. And this is 100% speculation on my part. So I'm not reporting this. I'm just saying, here's how it happens. The NFL wants the game in prime time on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football. They go to CBS. Hey, we know that this is going to be a massive game for you, but we really want it on the national window. But you know what we'll give you in return? Bills Chiefs next year at 4:25 again.
It's a great point.
That's how it happens. Of like, hey,
that's a great point.
We need this game, and in order for us to get it, we will give you Bills Chiefs again next year in that 4:25 window, and you'll once again get a massive number. If they don't, they'll go, okay, but just know Bills Chiefs haven't played on Sunday Night Football in a while. Bills Chiefs haven't played on Monday Night Football in a while. If you don't give us this game, we'll probably give it to one of your competitors. So that's how it happens.
I like it.
And if that's a little shady, then welcome to like television and the way things work.
I like it. That's a very good explanation. Like we said, I mean, don't blame us if it for somehow does happen. We're not telling you it's not going to.
I want it to happen.
Can't see a scenario.
Please let it happen. Please let it happen. Please
right,
put it on an ABC affiliate.
All right, real quick. Thanksgiving games. Bears at Lions. I mean, it's not a horrible game. I mean, Caleb Williams looks exciting, but the Lions obviously look really, really good. It's one of those games where, okay, I could sit down and watch that while I eat, but Giants at Cowboys after that. Oh my gosh. Tommy DeVito against Cooper Rush.
The appetizer is great and dessert is great. The entree is just an absolute disaster. You don't even need to watch. So you can watch the early game and you can watch the late game. In the middle, you can take your nap.
Go watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in the middle. It'll take up the time. And then the late game is going to be, I think, really interesting and obviously very impactful to the Buffalo Bills. The Miami Dolphins, who are 5-6, visit the Green Bay Packers, who are 8-3 in a division hunt of their own. And if the Dolphins lose that game, as we said, the Bills can win the division where they win Sunday night. And the Chiefs can actually clinch a playoff spot this week if the Dolphins lose as well. If the Dolphins win that game, Matt, suddenly they're really creeping up, as we said earlier, into that kind of 7th seed. Because right now, the way it looks is, believe it or not, Baltimore is the 5 at 8-4 because they're not the division leader. And then you have the Chargers at 7-4, the Broncos at 7-5. Then there's a gap, and then Miami at 5-6, but they get to 6-6. They're suddenly one game behind.
If the Dolphins win on Thursday, they're making the playoffs. I truly feel that way.
Do you think if they lose, they're completely done? That buries them?
They're not completely done, but they would probably require them winning out. Their schedule is tricky, but not impossible. So after the Packers game, they host. Here's why I think the Dolphins could do it. All right. They host the next week, the Jets. Probably a win. The following week, they go to Houston. And in the middle of December, Houston plays indoors. So they don't got to worry about any of the weather. Then the week after that, they host the 49ers. If there's a Brock Purdy injury or if their season doesn't matter, probably another win. Then after that, they go on the road to the Browns for a night game. That's like, of all the games, that's the most winnable because of the opponent. But you never know, like especially with Cleveland. And then after that, they close out the season with the Jets. I think if they lose this game to the Packers, they probably have to win out. And then, when you have no margin for error and you have to rattle off 5 straight wins, that's a lot to ask.
Okay, I will say that if they lose, I think they're buried, and it's not because of them. I think that is
because the Broncos.
You're right. It's because the other teams around them. I mean, look at the teams that they're looking up at right now. All right, the Broncos, the Chargers, and the Ravens. I think the only chance would be catching the Broncos. Look, what's their schedule here? Broncos have.
It's not impossible.
I mean, they have the Browns, the Colts, the Chargers, the Bengals, the Chiefs might not have anything to play for at the time. I think it's too tough of a climb for them if that happens. Let me ask you this. As of right now, Broncos at Bills would be the 7-2 first-round matchup. You could also have the Chargers in there, the Dolphins. I guess the Colts are right there. Like, what's the more favorite? How about Broncos or Chargers? If you're a Bills fan, who would you rather see the Bills face, Broncos or Chargers?
Broncos, because even though you like what Bo Nix has done as a rookie, to me, it's all about the quarterbacks. What guy could come in here and win a playoff game? Any of them. Anybody who gets to the playoffs could, but you would take the reason if I'm the Bills, there's 2 teams I really want to avoid. And that's actually, obviously the Ravens, but I'm not including them because I still think that they're going to win the division. I want to avoid the Bengals, and I want to avoid the Dolphins. I want to avoid the Bengals because the Bengals have played well against the Bills, and Joe Burrow can go nuclear and win a game on his own. And I want to avoid the Dolphins because it's really hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year. That's right. I don't care that it's going to be cold and that the Bills have had the Dolphins number. I just don't think that that's a team that you want to play. All that said, hey, Bills, go win out or lose 1 game because I still think the 1 seed is very much in play. The Chiefs are good, but they are not as good as people thought they were even a couple weeks ago.
Any chance you give the Raiders to beat the Chiefs on Black Friday?
No. The games that I'm thinking about for the Chiefs, ultimately, I think when they play the Broncos later in the year, that's a scary game for them. I think they play the Chargers 2 weeks from now. I mean, this is how their season ends. They go Raiders, Chargers, Browns, Texans, Steelers, Broncos. I think there are 4 games in there that are tricky games. The only ones who I would say, they're going to win are the Raiders and the Browns.
You're going to be conflicted on Christmas Day when it's Chiefs at Steelers, and you're like, I know the Steelers aren't that good, but you know what? They got to be good today to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't think the Steelers are that good, to be honest. I think that they're.
I know,
right? I would rather
say the same thing about the Chiefs, and then they're 10-1, and I mean, I don't know. They find ways to win, and I agree.
If I'm the Bills, I'd rather play the Steelers in the wild card round than the Dolphins. How about that?
I think you're right. Yeah, those division games, I would too. I mean, I would agree with that. I wasn't that impressed with the Chargers against the Ravens. I think their offense is limited, Justin Herbert and that offense coming to Buffalo, but they have a good defense. They could limit you, I mean, so
this is my Dolphins take is that that's the second best team the Bills have beaten this year. They did it twice, but right. I mean, that's not a knock on the Bills. I think the Bills are arguably the best team in football right now, but I think the Chiefs are the best team they've beaten. And then I think the Dolphins are the second and third best team they've beaten because I think the Dolphins with Tua for an entire season would look a whole lot different than they do right now.
I have one Thanksgiving question for you.
I have an answer.
Do you put gravy on everything? I'm talking the turkey, the stuffing, the mashed potatoes, everything.
No. You could, and it would be totally normal. Like that would probably.
But you don't do that.
No, I don't. I would put it on the turkey, and I would put it on the mashed potatoes.
It's good on stuffing too, though.
Sure, it's good on stuffing.
Guy. I like stuffing.
Yeah, it's good on stuffing. It would be good on a lot of other stuff. I just, I don't put it on everything. I don't like. I know some people scoff at the idea. There'll probably be some sort of green beans or green bean casserole on my plate a little bit, just honestly for color. I wouldn't put it on that. I wouldn't put it on a piece of cornbread. I want my cornbread to be dry, not soggy. So stuff like that.
I am a meat and potatoes guy. It's turkey and stuffing all the way, mashed potatoes. It's all good. I'm not doing. I mean, you want to give me some veggies, whatever. I'm probably not eating much of it. I'll just do it for show and okay, thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. I will say though. And I'll ask you this because you are an Italian family, obviously growing up. Sure. Has it been a pasta Thanksgiving ever? I have family members that it's pasta Thanksgiving.
It used to be growing up, Italian wedding soup before the meal, and then turkey, and then some sort of pasta along with it. And it was always what are we doing? And you grow up and it's just what you're used to. So, you know, I was always very fortunate, but because it was also my birthday, it was always like Thanksgiving / my birthday.
Yes.
And I remember as like a kid, you know, like you have like, you know, you have the big meal and then you wait a little bit and then there's the dessert. And like some of the dessert would be like cucciatatis and lemon squares. And I'm like, could we just have like apple pie like the rest of the world, please? Could we like not do like fig cookies and like lemon squares and stuff? But yeah, no, so we grew up like the very Italian American Thanksgiving.
All right. So very quickly, we want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Right? I mean, just thank you so much. We are very thankful for all of you. And we hit 10,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Our audio numbers on the podcast are really growing. And we can't thank you enough. We also can't thank Mike Robier enough, our producer. He just does an amazing job. The guy behind the scenes that's really helping us out, putting a lot of this together. Matt, I want to say happy birthday to you. Have a great birthday, buddy.
Thank you.
And today, as we're talking, is my mom's birthday.
Oh, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday to my mom.
Capaccio.
Yes, it's Mrs. Thurston. She's remarried. So yes, there you go. It's okay. Happy birthday to my mom. And today, you know, we're recording this and I'm gonna be spending Tuesday night at my mom's, then Wednesday back to work for the Bills and find out what's going on with injuries. And then Thursday back to mom's again for Thanksgiving, which is really cool. I get 2 mom dinners and meals, but she doesn't have to cook tonight for her birthday though.
That's
we'll
nice.
do pizza.
Yeah, you'll do pizza. So yeah, we'll do the happy birthday to her. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody who's listening. I hope that you all had a very stress-free bye week as far as football is concerned.
Yes.
I hope all of your fantasy football teams are doing well. And we'll talk to you probably in some capacity one more time before the 49ers game, before the snow starts later in the week.